Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest party of 2022 is here! UBC West MP Kahona launches its Mbarara station on Goat Road in Mbarara City with your favorite entertainer, HT Murecha UBC West on 23rd July 2022 at Mbarara University Inn. People of Ankole, Kisoro, Kigezi, Toro, Bunyoro, Rwenzori and all parts of Uganda. Do not miss your cocktail fun with UBC West presenters, listeners and supporters. Come be part of the 2022 biggest party in the land with top artists, comedians, cultural dancers and ODs, women cyclists in the cycling competition, sports activities and many more from Western and Central Uganda at only 10,000 shillings. Don't miss the annual crowd puller of UBC West MP Kahona, and that is Etitimbure Reigunga. Proudly powered by Pepsi Cola, Delight Solar and UBC.
For sponsorship and partnership, call 0700-236-415 or 0782-265-827. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Keith Muhakan is the permanent secretary office of the Prime Minister. Majority of people know me as a finance guy. I'm no longer there. I'm the former secretary, permanent secretary of Treasury. Yeah. The role of OPM, the major objective of the office of the Prime Minister, most people nowadays, when they come here, they think it is refugee coordination, disaster management. No, our first and most fundamental area to achieve is coordinating government ministries, MDS, to ensure that government programs, cabinet decisions, presidential directives, all these kind of things are implemented so that we achieve economic growth and development. So that's fundamentally our work. So we are the lead of government business and coordinating the MDS to achieve those objectives. Our role is, fundamental role is not projects, is to coordinate government to ensure all government programs and projects are implemented. So the work which we are working on, the first one is to ensure government achieves, all those programs are achieved. And therefore we have, our major role is, we have now what delivery unit, which was created around 4, 5, 6 years ago to ensure that things are achieved. We also have M&E, to monitor government projects and programs. I have to say that from my experience, and I don't want people to get angry, like all organizations, private, government, at a certain point, you lose your focus, and this office was well known for majority of people for some time of scandals and all those kind of stuff anyway. So when I came here, I found that our first objective was first to reorganize the ministry because my role, as you know, as a chief CEO, I think, as a managing director, as we call it, it's my duty to ensure that we achieve the results. So I think things had gone astray, but I'm very happy over the last 7, 8 months. We have refocused ourselves to put systems in place we focus our things that our role is not, first is not refugees or this. Of course, we do it well, as you know, as you see, is to achieve the fundamental, which is coordination.
Mr. Muhakanizi, he has been giving us a lot of guidance and we have really benefited from him. There is no gap because he has been guiding the under-secretaries who are in his office.
And I'm happy with the leadership of the Prime Minister and my ministers. We have now worked out reforms to ensure that we focus back to our major role. And I think that I'm very happy that it's now being done. I must say, the second one was to bring confidence. People back of staff, confidence of not only staff here, of the people. MDS had lost confidence in us. Everybody, as I said, we were known for scandals and this kind of thing. But I'm happy that over the last 7-8 months or so, you have not heard about the bad things doing. In fact, I think you are hearing good things going on. For example, this is the first time we have had a conference of sustainable development programs, which is our major role of coordination. Now, and two, we are trying to focus the work to ensure that we achieve government decisions, major policy decisions are implemented, and so that we move forward. And it's going on well. Are we there? No, not yet. Much more work needs to be done. Much more reforms need to be done. But I'm happy that we have built confidence across the board, and we are ready to take our role, and we are moving in that direction, which is good. The achievements which we have achieved is, as I said, first to restore confidence back to the office of the Prime Minister, the lead of government business. We are very important, by the way, and you are going to see it, and support the Prime Minister and the President to ensure that the government is keen, to use my language, that everybody is keen to ensure that within the government that the discipline is restored, number one, which is very important. You remember what we achieved at finance, high level of discipline, to ensure that government programs are delivered, to ensure that service delivery in the government organizations are delivered not only on a quality but on a timely basis. And you'll see it. COVID-19 disrupted it's not only that it attacked us and killed a number of our colleagues and friends and relatives and things, but it disrupted the economy for 2 years or so. You remember the schools closed. You remember, and that's not only here, across the world. So we all over the world, governments must refocus on see how they get back to the path of development, of economic growth and development. And that's what we're trying to achieve by leading government into that direction. The budget. As a former Secretary of Treasury, I'll give my views, which are there. I thought it was a good budget in the circumstances we are in, because it focused on trying to deal with, to ensure that economic growth is restored, to ensure that economic stability, inflation is brought down. That's why I know many people have seen people talk about, but I think it was good. It was good. That's what I can say. The challenge is now going to be, of course, as usual, on implementation, and I think that's what we're going to focus on. The people of Uganda deserve to get better services, And that's what I'm focusing my boss. I'm helping, we are staff helping our Prime Minister to ensure that people get better service delivery. The way forward is to ensure we are going to work very hard. I'm happy that we have reorganized to ensure that we move the system towards quality service delivery. It's meant to take to make everybody what we call inclusive by getting funds to do their business, to bring the 39% who are so-called subsistence into the monetary economy, which is very important. So it's important that, of course, it is very important that it's well implemented. That's different. But I think it's well, it is to achieve so that people in rural areas where poverty is the highest can get into become inclusive into the monetary economy and get higher incomes and deal with all these kind of things. So that's what it meant. And of course, to participate in delivery of service, at partial model and level to determine their own priorities. I think that time is now for all of us to get out of lamentation of COVID, of higher prices, and work out how do we move forward and out of the emerging shocks which have hit the economy, not only Uganda, but all over the world. But more importantly, everybody should participate and we all work together, new initiatives, so that we get back to sustainable growth and development. SDGs are sustainable development goals. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the 17 goals are a universal plan for all countries to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure prosperity for all. The SDGs were adopted when Uganda was, this is very important, was held the presidency of UN General Assembly. And since then, Uganda has been at the forefront, so we are proud of that. Government has implemented an inclusive process to ensure that the 2030 Agenda is owned by the people of Uganda, starting with national coordination arrangements. The institutional delivery on the SDGs is guided by the multi-sector national SDGs coordination framework established in 2016 under the leadership of the Office of the Prime Minister. As you can see, that's what I'm doing. The framework defines the role of different government agencies and non-state actors in supporting implementation, monitoring, and reporting as incurred within the existing government structures, but also identifies and brings on board different non-sectors, including the United Nations, private sector, COS, and development partners. We recently launched a new roadmap, 2025, to operationalize the SDG coordination framework that takes into consideration the various challenges, including, of course, but not limited to the COVID-19 epidemic, and how to build forward better things. So we are initiating, that's what we are doing now, reinitiating actually strong mechanisms to reactivate so that we go back to these areas. A number of areas were disrupted by COVID, by lockdowns and all these kind of things. Economy not moving at the speed which it was supposed to do. So the purpose of the SDGs which we are working now on Uganda now, initiation which we have done, and I'm proud of it, led by the Office of the Prime Minister, is to ensure that we re-energize the government, energize the people of Uganda, energize the development partners, energize all stakeholders, so that we move back to the path of achieving those sustainable development goals. The Office of Prime Minister through the SDG Secretariat will hold the first annual conference on sustainable development goals on 16th and 17th June this year, preceded by regional SDGs forums which have already been completed. The conference fosters stakeholder reviews on the annual SDGs Progress Report 21 and also reflects on the impact of COVID on the implementation of national priorities highlighted in the National Development Plan to ensure that no one is left behind, as I have already alluded to. We will provide the forum for government ministries, departments and agencies, UN agencies, development partners, civil society organizations, academia and the private sector to come together to share practical solutions to achieve the full implementation of 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the African Union Agenda 2063 in Uganda. We'll facilitate sharing of ideas and good practices at local and national level and catalyze actions, as I have already alluded to achieve the 2030 Agenda and the SDGs. We will therefore generate key messages and actions to influence the processes of other global and national events and platforms like HLPF and the government annual performance reports and the EPEX reform and the budget conference. SDGs are universal goals for all people and are inherently global in nature. Learning about the SDG conference helps a local person in the village to develop insights into critical issues around the world, such as how to deal with poverty, how to get good health, quality education, and lack of access to clean water, and gender equality, to mention but a few. There are 4 dimensions sustainable development: society, environment, culture, and economy, which I've already said, which are by nature intertwined. All these concern the livelihoods of people and their households.
The overreaching objective of the Paris Development Model is to increase household incomes and improve the quality of life of Ugandans, with a specific focus on total transformation of the subsistence households into the money economy.
The Tales of Kasozi, brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission.
Hello?
Hello?
This is Kasozi. How can I help you?
Hey, Kasozi, my brother. Long time. We last met when we were at campus. It's been a while, but you are the person I'm looking for.
Campus? Really?
Hey, you don't remember me?
Okay, so how can I help you?
I'm stuck in Gulu making millions and I need to urgently send money to my sick mother. But I can't find any mobile money agent near me. I've sent the money to your phone, as you can see the message. It might take a few minutes to come through, but I urgently need you to send the money to my mother. Let me send you her number and you send it to her chap.
My friend, I'm afraid your mom is going to die.
What?
Because I don't know you, I never went to campus, and I'm also in Gulu. So can we meet at CPS, we talk about it?
Stay tuned for what Kasozi does next.
Tofera. Refrain from unnecessary engagements with strangers over the phone. This message is powered by the Uganda Communications Commission.
Flavor. When we together, the vibe is pretty alright. Our taste is pretty awesome. We are Uganda's #1 fruity refreshment. Enjoy Mirinda Fruity, Uganda's #1 fruity refreshment.
I remember the lockdown, when the streets were empty and our lives disrupted, when businesses closed and our livelihoods hung in the balance. Hospitals were full. We lost loved ones, jobs, and hope. Our children couldn't study anymore. We cannot let this happen again. We should not go back. Get fully vaccinated against COVID-19 and join the millions of Ugandans who are already vaccinated.
Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest party of 2022 is here! UBC West MP Kahona launches its Mbarara station on Goat Road in Mbarara City with your favorite entertainer, HT Mburecha UBC West on 23rd July 2022 at Mbarara University Inn. People of Ankole, Chisoro, Kigezi, Toro, Bunyoro, Rwenzori and all parts of Uganda. Do not miss your cocktail fun with UBC West presenters, listeners and supporters. Come be part of the 2022 biggest party in the land with top artists, comedians, cultural dancers and ODs, women cyclists in the cycling competition, sports activities and many more from Western and Central Uganda at only 10,000 shillings. Don't miss the annual crowd puller of UBC West MP Kahona, and that is Etitimbure Igunga. Proudly powered by Pepsi Cola, Delight Solar and UBC.
For sponsorship and partnership, call 0700-236-415 or 0782-265-827. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Animal welfare means how an animal is coping with the conditions in which it lives, including its health, comfortably, well nourished, safe and able to express innate behavior. Animal welfare means how an animal is coping with the conditions in which it lives, including its health, comfortably, well nourished, safe and able to express innate behavior. This according to the Farming Campaigns Manager at the World Animal Protection Nairobi office. Dr. Victor Yamo deprives domestic animals and birds of their natural being and reduces on the food quality out of these animals and birds.
Because animal welfare is a critical aspect of catering for animals, which then leads to certain important things, because there is connections between animal welfare and how we cater for our animals, especially food system animals or farmed animals, because it has impact on the quality of products that we eat. It has also got an impact on food safety. It has also got impact on trade, because organizations are beginning to develop policies that drive trade around food systems. And so holistically work with everybody to understand the critical role that animal welfare plays in the life of an animal.
Fundamental role for animal welfare. Ensuring animal welfare is a human responsibility that includes consideration for all aspects of animal well-being, including proper housing, management, nutrition, disease prevention and treatment, responsible care, and human handling. Generally, prevention and elimination of harms are done by humans, and if animal welfare is put into consideration, the production is possibly effective.
And I want to make it very clear, animals do not have rights, because you'll hear people talking about animal rights. In good production systems or in good animal welfare systems, animals have what we call freedoms. And there are 5 internationally recognized freedoms. The first one is freedom from hunger and thirst. That animal should get food that is meeting its state of life. The way you feed a day-old chick, if you're looking at chickens, is not the way you feed a layer hen that is producing. Their requirements are different. So we must provide that animal with good quality feed, but we also must provide it with good wholesome water, clean water. I know when we go to production systems, I find sometimes water that has been used to wash dishes is what to give the animal. The challenge with that, and that's why I think Ugandans are beginning to look at it, what the animal eats is what ends up on your table. So if the animal is eating poor quality feed, it's eating, for instance, sometimes it gets sick, we give it antibiotics, that antibiotics then ends up on your table. If the animal is drinking dirty water, and sometimes the water has too much bacteria, that bacteria ends up on your table. Because essentially, people who do animal behaviors and scientists have shown that the animal is a very interesting object. Let me call it object for this debate. The reason why we're saying it's interesting is because when the animal eats something, what it does, it concentrates that something and put it back on the table. So if you're avoiding giving an animal good quality water, that poor quality water that has bacteria, that bacteria will end up in milk, it will end up in eggs, it will end up in meat. Yeah? So that's the first one. That's why we say it's very important what the animal eats. The second one is the spacing, the physical. It says freedom from discomfort. You must give the animal good space. Whether it's in a house or whether it's outside, there must be enough space for the animal to walk, to eat. There must be good, if it's a chicken house, it must be well aerated so that there's good quality air. Because if the animal then doesn't have good space or clean space, you end up with a situation where the animal gets sick, and that disease, science has shown us that diseases that move from animals to humans, they're called zoonotic diseases. And 75% of emerging and re-emerging diseases actually coming from animal systems, and that's the critical reason why we look at animal welfare. The third one is freedom from pain, injury, and disease, which essentially is looking at how we manage diseases at the animal level so that they are not transmitted to humans. And as I said, the diseases that come from animals and go to human, anthrax is a good example, and the others that we can discuss. Then freedom from freedom to express its natural behavior. The animal should be able to express its natural behavior, and that's why in certain production systems, if you have been tracking what's happening internationally, people are beginning to say, organizations are beginning to say, we do not want eggs coming from battery cage systems, because that bird is restricted into a small space. It cannot flap, it cannot stretch, it cannot scratch like the local chickens do. And those are some of the things that are becoming important. Why is it that the local bird looks appealing? It's because it's got most of its freedom scattered for. It is not enclosed in a chicken house, it's running around there, it's scratching. Because of that, you are getting better quality product in terms of meat, yeah, because the animal is exercising, which doesn't happen in certain production systems. But I must also put it this way, that sometimes that perception also deceives us, because we think it's a good quality product. But if you go and interrogate the local chicken production systems, you find that there's a lot of diseases. Farmers are beginning to use a lot of antibiotics. So maybe what we are trying to run away from is already within the system we are looking at, and maybe we then need to reevaluate and say, let's do something slightly different. So as an organization, that's why we're also sensitizing consumers and the general public to start looking at certain things in that production system that might be leading to some of the problems that we have a report that we have just highlighted, some of the things that are coming out from production systems across the continent.
Negative impacts. Many of the animal diseases are continually transmitted to humans. Over 75% of emerging and re-emerging infections contracted by humans, giving a negative impact to our bodies.
And those are some of the reasons why we are saying animal welfare is so critical, that you need to ensure that if I'm buying meat from a supermarket, where is the supermarket getting who's the producer? Is the producer feeding the right products? Another classical example, just so that we clear this, if you misuse antibiotics, and I know in certain pastoral conditions where people, the farmer, the pastoralist, because they are not veterinary, quote unquote, inject animals with antibiotics because they suspect a certain disease, or even poultry farmers. The chicken has diarrhea in the morning, the farmer wakes up, asks the neighbor, oh, the chicken has a problem, what did you do? They say, oh, I used this drug, and they give it to the drug. The reality is that drug is going to end up in the food at two levels. One, it's going to end up in food as residues, because when you take drugs, part of it remains in your system. That's how they cure you. But it's also going to select bacteria. The bacteria that are sensitive to the drug will die off. The bacteria that is resistant will remain in the food. And last year we did research in Nairobi, what we are calling supermarket meat testing. We hope to replicate it in Uganda at some point. We went to the big supermarkets, the big 6 supermarkets in Nairobi, are actually in Kenya because it was done in about 6 counties. And we bought meat, chicken meat and pig meat, and we took it to a Kenya Medical Research Institute. And they were able to isolate in 33% of the products, they were able to isolate what we call superbugs. Superbugs are essentially organisms that are resistant to 3 or more antibiotics. And so science is beginning to show us that antibiotic resistance is one of the big problems that we are dealing with in sub-Saharan Africa because of the way we misuse drugs. A farmer is able to go to an agrovet shop and buy restricted drugs over the counter. What we fail to see is that those drugs are the same ones we use to treat human conditions. And that is driving antibiotic resistance across sub-Saharan Africa. And there's a lot of data that says that.
These are international policies and laws regulating the welfare of animals, and accordingly, some animal rights proponents argue that the perception of better animal welfare facilitates continued and increased exploitation of animals. Some authorities therefore treat animal welfare and animal rights as two opposing positions. Others see animal welfare gains as incremental steps towards animal rights.
Traditionally, Africans are very good at managing the animals. It's just that we are slightly losing managing our animals because we are trying to be modernized. But then you're right, there are international conventions that apply. And I'll give you some of them because they are very interesting. One, animal welfare is regulated by, is a subject matter that is managed by the veterinary profession. And so I'm sure if you go to your veterinary profession, there is a policy that is being developed, or if it's not already there, there are strategies around animal welfare and productivity and animal welfare and certain other aspects. But for Africa, the most interesting one is the fact that in 2017, the continent, African Union, the heads of states ratified what is known as the Animal Welfare Strategy for Africa, and even developed what is known as the African Platform for Animal Welfare, APAO. So African countries have come together and recognized the importance of animals, and that is why they created a strategy. The strategy is then benchmarked on international. If you go to World Organization of Animal Health, they have a whole section in the Terrestrial Animal Health Code that talks about animal welfare, what we need to do, and all those things around protection. But then each country, you know, Africa does a strategy, each country then is supposed to bring it down to their level. And so I'm sure in Uganda, for instance, there's a law, Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act, that drives that process. It might be a slightly old, like the Kenyan one, but the reality is there's no gap in the system. There is a law that talks about how you manage animals, not only farm animals, but even our pets, even wildlife for that matter. Then the aspects of protection of animals in other pieces of legislation. I know in Uganda, you have a Uganda Wildlife Authority. Part of what they do is looking at management of wildlife. And that then drives the process of what you are saying. It caters for how wildlife should not be destroyed, how we must ensure that wildlife is managed at certain levels.
During transportation, it is important to remember these best practices for your safety and for the safety of the animals. Slow down and calm down. Follow proper animal handling practices at all times. Do not overload livestock in the trailer. Refer to industry guidelines as proper numbers of animals will vary depending on their size.